What is up, guys? Steve with Scotch and Things. You get this is a Knife Thoughts with Scotch and Things. Is this episode 4? I can't remember. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fuck, I can't remember. I can't remember. What do I got on me today, though? Kind of the Blessed Knives. Ripley. This thing is such a badass knife. Donnie did such a good job on that. We'll talk about that in a second. And we'll get around the corner. Oops, that was weak. And the heater, MOW. Oh man, love this knife. Both those knives, I had both these on me. We had some buddies, and in town Sunday we went golfing, and one is my knife buddy friend, and one he's not in the, he's in the trades, kind of like a project manager, but we've been trying to get him knives. He's like, no man, my Milwaukee Fastback. It's totally fine, because he looks at something like this and he was like, what the hell? I'm like, dude, it's awesome. I carry it all the time. So real quick, so what's this episode about? Now, I've kind of touched on this before, but I watched a program last night. I watched it again today, a little bit of it, to make sure I didn't hear something wrong. I don't watch Scab, Choir Boy Cutlery, or Choir Boy Outdoor. I know who he is. I've seen some of his videos, but he's not someone I regularly watch because I'm not into cut tests. I'm not into fixed blades, right? But I was just kind of scrolling through YouTube last night, and it showed that he was live with Greg Medford, Ernie Emerson, Curtis from Spartan Blades, and another guy, I can't remember his first name now, from Phobos Knives. I think he makes fixed blades. I was like, that's interesting. So what are they talking about? And I stepped in maybe 15 minutes, 10 minutes into it. Eric, I think, is the other guy's name, from Phobos. Kind of long-winded when he starts talking. He's one of those guys that just rambles, so it was kind of hard to watch him. So I went back this morning and watched from the beginning again, and watched an hour of it again, just to make sure I heard. Like I said, I don't know. I know a lot of guys are friends with Scat. Like Billy was in there. I know Dave has mentioned him before. Like I said, I just don't know. It's just not someone, because I'm not, like I said, I don't care about cut tests. I don't care that a fixed blade can cut through a tree. From time to time I've watched a video, but yeah, it's just not my thing. But man, to assemble that panel, hell yeah, I'm watching that. And at one point, and I had to watch it again to make sure, if I'm misquoting him or whatever, step in and let me know. But Scab asked them not to lower their prices, but how can more average Americans afford or get their hands on their knives or whatever. And Ernie's knives are pretty affordable, right? He makes a pretty affordable knife. Greg is he's got his new affordable line coming. And Curtis from Spartan, they've got a tier gold, silver, and bronze, which I didn't know. Their gold is stuff they make. Their bronze or their silver is something that's made by K-Bar, which I didn't know K-Bar owns half a portion of Spartan. That was interesting. And then their bronze is made over in Taiwan. So they do have affordable knives, more affordable knives. I own all of their knives. I don't own a Phobos because, like I said, I'm not into fixed blades that much. And I think part of it, like, he's trying to get folders made and was looking to overseas. Anyway, go watch the episode for yourself. It's pretty good. But it's funny hearing Greg. Everybody likes to hate on Greg, right? Greg is the devil. But if you talk to these other knife makers, they feel the same way. It's hilarious. but they never get. It's because Greg is more vocal. Ernie is very vocal about it. If you were to ever listen to Ernie talk about overseas made knives and what he thinks of them, but he doesn't get that kind of hate. And same with Curtis. And they were talking about, Scab is like, well, these guys bust their ass making $15 an hour. And I wanted to say, man, like $15, how is anybody in this world now making $15? What are you doing? Maybe it's time that you go get a different job, because if you can go make $20 at McDonald's, what are you busting your ass doing whatever work they do for $15 an hour? I mean, shit. I don't know. So maybe it's not a, and I don't think he was really posing it as that. Like, how can it, he's not asking them to make cheaper knives or lower their prices, because they have to make money. And he said that, but he I almost feel like he implied it. And maybe if he sees this or someone shows it to him, I don't know. But like, how can more people afford their knives? And so it was funny to hear those three guys, mostly Greg, Ernie, and Curtis, talk about that and what they are. And Ernie makes an affordable knife, but Ernie also brings up a great point, which I've said many times too. He's got his grandfather's hammers that are 100 years old, and they're still as good as the day his grandfather bought them. And why should he make a shit knife, to make a shit knife? No, you're going to make a knife in America, and it's going to cost more, but you can hand it down to your son, your grandchildren. Same with the Medford, same with the Curtis, same with Chris, any of them really, okay? And there are more affordable options out there. There's cheaper American knives, for sure. But and Curtis made a great point. He's like, why should we race to the bottom? This is a business, and I think that's what people forget. This is a business, and these guys they're in it to make money. Yeah, they like making knives, but at the end of the day, it's a business. And why should they race to the bottom, right? Race, do you know what that term means, racing to the bottom? You're racing to bring your cot to get the cheapest price down, and then you're not making any money. Why would you put your blood, sweat, and tears into something? It would be like me. Why would my prices, and farmers are like, oh gosh, everything's more expensive now. Yeah, it's more expensive. But why? I'm not going to lower my prices, because every year my payroll goes up, my taxes go up, my insurance goes up, and never making any kind of claims on any of those, but every year they go up. My costs go up. Materials like consumables go up that I use. So why would I race to the bottom to get a job, to put a bin up, just so I can break even? It goes like that. And hearing these guys talk not only as knife makers, but talk as business owners, I think is something that would be good for people to watch. Listen to a business owner talk, not just on knives, but why stuff costs, the way it does. What does it cost to pay a machinist here in the country? And these Chinese companies, right, the guys having their knives made in China, they're not footing any of that, right? They're not paying workers' compensation. They're not paying liability insurance. They're not paying any of these costs that these knife makers are incurring here in the States. And I think one of them brought it up, like, that bringing up like aerospace, right? A lot of these guys could make a shit more money turning their factories into stuff for aerospace and stuff like that, and make way more money than they could on knives even. So, I think it's a topic that we just keep beating to death, but it was really nice to hear, and Greg talks about it a lot, but it was nice to hear other knife makers talk about it, right? And if you guys didn't know, I know Ernie's very vocal on it. I didn't go to Blade Show, but I know he gives a talk at Blade Show about American knives and American manufacturing. So I just think people should go watch this and listen to it from a business owner's point of view. And when you think, well, why is the American knife so much more than the Chinese knife? There's there's 1,000 reasons why, all right? And it's nice to hear what these knife makers think and why they think you shouldn't go overseas. And I think you should go watch it. And it might not change anybody's mind, but at the same time, people complaining about $1,000 knife, a custom handmade $1,000 knife, a custom handmade $1,200 knife, or they couldn't afford that, or they can't afford a Chris Reeve, or they can't afford a Spartan, but you'll have $1,000 in pre-orders out for Chinese knives. Does that make sense? So it's not that you can't, it's that you choose not to. Greg made a point, like, everybody's walking around with an iPhone in their pocket. It's what it's worth to you. And you know, people were commenting like, hey man, I changed the way I ate. I didn't eat out at lunch so I could afford a Medford knife or this or that. And it's not what can these knife companies do for the American people. It's what can these American people do to help themselves. Do they, you know, if you're making, I don't know what Scab does, but if he says they're making $14 an hour, what are you doing to better your life making $14 an hour in a job that I'm assuming it's something blue collar? What are these guys doing? Why can't they better, you know, why do they need to get a different skill? Do they need to look at a different trade? Because the money's out there, but you have to be willing to go. One, if you're willing to bust your ass for $14 an hour, what are you willing to bust your ass for $20 an hour? You know, for $30 an hour? And look at your life. Where are you spending your money? What are you, you know, are you pissing away on, who knows? There's 1,000 things you could be pissing your $14 an hour away on instead of saving it. If that knife really meant something to you, you would find a way to get it. So maybe it's just not meant for you. And Curtis made that point too, and we've all said this before too. The percentage of people that buy their knives is very small compared to the overall knife buyer in general, right? One, they don't care where their knife is made. They don't know that there's American-made knives. They just go to Walmart, pick out a new knife, and that's good until that knife is either dull, lost, or broken. So it's one, it's got to be, you have to know about it. Two, it's got to be important enough for you to set aside funds to purchase that knife, right? Not every knife guy is going to be a custom knife enthusiast. Not every knife guy is going to be. They just don't. They could know that there's American-made knives for you know, $400, $500, but that's not worth it to them. They would rather take that money and put that somewhere else, and that's fine, right? So I don't know. It was just a weird, like, it was weird. What can we do, or what can we? I just thought it was a weird topic of conversation. I thought it was a weird, like, and he said, I'm not asking you to lower your prices, and they shouldn't, right? Why should you lower your prices so someone can afford your knife? If they can either afford it or they can't. They can aspire to it or they won't. So it's up to the individual, not the knife company, not the knife maker, is what I'm trying to say. It is up to that individual to decide that that knife is important enough for them to save or spend their hard-earned money on, right? I don't know. I think you guys should go watch the video and let me know what your thoughts are. And I just find it funny, like Ernie Emerson, right? That's an affordable knife, in my opinion, that will last you the rest of your life. For $250 to $350. I don't know what more you want, if you want a good solid tool. But yeah, I just thought it's nice to hear other people, because Greg is so vocal, it's nice to hear other knife makers talk about overseas and why they shouldn't lower their prices, right? You're gonna buy that knife or you're not. And Curtis was very articulate about it. So was Ernie. So go watch that video and then let me know what your thoughts are. Talk to you later. Bye.